Today we're going to look at 16 models of the iconic Mamiya 6 folding medium format film camera. Then I'll demonstrate two of the most popular models, Model 4 and Model K. These have a very special place for camera collectors and smart users. If you have been searching for good information on these cameras, you are exactly in the right place. The story of Mamiya itself is also fascinating. You don't want to miss it. Here are the quick links if you want to jump ahead, but I recommend that you watch in order. Mamiya is known and well loved for its medium format professional film cameras such as Mamiya RB67, RZ67, Mamiya 645 or Mamiya 7. Before these, Mamiya made brick-like press cameras such as Mamiya Press Super 23, which we covered here, and these equally heavy TLRs such as the Mamiya C3 Professional that we covered here. Also in 1962, Mamiya subcontracted to make Nikon's Nicorex cameras. Earlier still, in 1961, Mamiya made rangefinder cameras, such as this beautifully engineered Mamiya 35 Ruby, which we covered here. Going all the way back to the beginning of the company, for the first 18 years, from 1940 to 1958, Mamiya made a camera series known as Mamiya 6, which already had many of the key features of the subsequent Mamiya cameras I just mentioned. That includes professional grade plus medium format, both 6x6 and 6x4.5, and rangefinder. Unlike the later large and heavy medium format cameras, Mamiya 6 was compact, relatively light, and the best of their type, bar none. They stood out in a vast field of similar competing cameras made in Japan and Germany. There's a much later version of Mamiya 6 from 1989, also a great camera and quite expensive today, but that's a story for another day. Mamiya wasn't always known as a camera manufacturer. The name comes from Mr. Seiichi Mamiya, chief engineer and designer who founded the company in 1940, together with businessman and financier Sugawara Tsunejiro. They called the company Mamiya Koki Seisakusho, or Mamiya Optical Works. Seiichi Mamiya was the son of Katsusaburo Mamiya, a prominent businessman and inventor who had almost 30 patents for his inventions. He invented and manufactured a new type of safe box in 1919, which became very popular and was copied by a lot of others, something similar to this. After 1923, the senior Mamiya-san and his son made adding machines and early calculators. Then in 1926, his son Seiichi Mamiya combined the safe box and adding machine and created what might have been Japan's first cash register. The cash register won a design award at a Japanese trade show. At the same show, Seiichi Mamiya was introduced to Aichiro Fujiyama, who later became part of the National Cash Register Company that you now know as NCR, the global tech company. He convinced Seiichi Mamiya to come and work for him and produce the cash registers under his company name. Seiichi did so and worked for NCR, but he was a restless mechanical engineer and inventor like his father. So in 1937 he left to follow his interest in photography and photographic equipment. At this time, Mamiya Company was part of a Japanese Leica user group and published some instructions on Leica and photography. In 1939, Seiichi Mamiya patented his own design for an innovative camera with a unique back-focusing system. In May 1940, Mamiya-san and his business partner launched their first camera called Mamiya 6. Next year, Mamiya 6 won first prize at the Tokyo Export Promotion Fair. Mamiya-san received several patents for Mamiya 6, including one from the UK and 3 from the US. Mamiya-san personally designed 4 camera series: Mamiya 6, Mamiya 16, Mamiya Flex, and Mamiya RB67. All of these display a particular elegance and efficiency in design, which is not always matched by other cameras, including those from Mamiya. As luck would have it, soon after, World War II started. The Mamiya 6 continued to be produced during the war, unlike other Japanese makers such as Nikon, who were required to switch their factories over to producing goods for the war effort. During the war, 5 major versions of Mamiya 6 were produced: Mamiya models 1, 1A, 2, 2A, and 3. These all had waist-level finders, in addition to a rangefinder. Customers would choose from a variety of lenses and shutters which were available and could be fitted to their camera. But in March 1945, American bombing destroyed Mamiya offices and factories in Hongo, Tokyo. The company suspended operations for a while. After the Japanese surrender in 1946, there was pressure to rebuild Japanese economy and manufacturing. The US occupation forces started to take applications to resume industrial production. Mamiya applied and it was approved. Mamiya rebuilt the entire company. Post-war cameras were initially made from salvaged parts, materials, and designs from the past models. Then in 1947, an entirely new model, Mamiya 6 Model 4, was released with a simpler and cleaner design. For example, the waist level finder of the early models was dropped. By the end of 1940s, the production of Models 2 and 3 had completely stopped, and Model 4 was the only one, continuing until 1953. I'll show you Model 4 hands-on in great detail later. In 1953, Model 5 came out with dual format 6x6 and 6x4.5. This model also had two variants of the format selection system. This model was followed by simplified versions of dual format, such as Model K in 1954, which I'll also demonstrate in great detail later. In 1955, a new version of Model 4 known as 4B was introduced with a revised top plate and larger square viewfinder window. The same year, 1955, Mamiya 6 Automat was launched as the first automatic shutter-cocking 6x6 folding camera. The next year, 1956, Model K2 was launched, followed by models 4S and P in 1957. The last and most advanced model of Mamiya 6 was Automat 2, which was similar to the first Automat but with frame lines and parallax correction guide. The cameras themselves don't tell you which model they are. Sometimes the names were on the boxes or in the printed advertisements, but not on the camera, just like iPhones today. Be patient and I'll tell you how to identify each model. Why were these cameras called Mamiya 6? 120 film format was popular in Japan and a lot of generic manufacturers were making cameras for them. 6 refers to 6x6 frame or 12 shots, and semi refers to 6x4.5 frame or 16 shots. Almost all of them faded away over time. Only Poppy 6 made it until 1990. Under the name 6, we find these wonderful names. So Mamiya was not the first or last in using the name 6. It was an expected label. The fierce competition also explains why Mamiya had to do something to stand out from the crowd. For example, the back focusing system and later the automatic shutter cocking, which were unique for folding cameras at the time. By the end of 1950s, folding cameras had fallen out of favor, as easier to use compact 35mm cameras were gaining popularity, from consumer to professional models. Mamiya itself also started producing 35mm cameras, both rangefinder and SLR. The production of Mamiya 6 ended in 1958 after selling around 400,000 units. The new Mamiya 6 came out 31 years later in 1989. Hopefully, I'll do another episode on that model as soon as I can get one. The end of Mamiya as a major independent camera maker was in 2009, when Phase 1 of Denmark purchased 45% of Mamiya. By 2015, Phase 1 completely took over Mamiya Digital Imaging Company Limited. They continue to produce digital cameras and lenses, but under the Phase 1 name. There are a lot of connoisseurs who love Mamiya 6 and exchange information on them, but it's very hard to get good information on all the models in one place. If you're still here, you're one of them, and you're in luck today. I'll now take you through each model and show you how you can identify them. Model 1, like all wartime models, has 3 windows on the front: viewfinder, waist level finder, and rangefinder. Rangefinder is square and the others are round, with chrome frames. It has a frame counter with auto stop. As you rotate, it'll stop at the next frame. It has a 12x12mm waist level finder in the center in addition to the viewfinder on the back. On the right, it has a depth of field window which is rotated 90 degrees left. This and all models up to Model 4 have curved viewfinder housing in the style of Leica cameras. All the wartime models have the number 6 in letters as in SIX. Later models used numeral 6. The bellows operating button is on the left side of the waist level finder and a little lower than the top edge. Uniquely for this model, the strap eyelets on the right and left sides. Model 1 bellows strut has 3 segments. Its film winding knob is solid like a cylinder. On the back there's a single red window to set the first film frame. For all other frames, the camera uses the auto stop. On the left side, there is a double exposure prevention slider. It removes a red patch in the viewfinder that indicates you have already taken a picture. It also releases the film winder so you can go to the next frame and take a picture. On the bottom plate, we see protrusions for film spool release knobs and the tripod socket. Some later models have a flat bottom. To quickly identify, first see if it has 3 windows on the front, therefore it can only be one of the wartime models. See if it has strap eyelets. If so, it can only be Model 1 or 1A. Look at the strut. If it has 3 segments, it's Model 1 for sure. Model 1A is almost identical to Model 1. Just look at the bellows struts. If they have 2 segments, this must be Model 1A. Model 3 came out before Model 2. This model added a flash contact and self-timer. The flash contact is the old style before they were standardized by Carl Zeiss as Prontor, Compur or PC. Let's compare all the wartime designs. Model 1 and 1A had 12 by 12 mm waist level finder. All other models had 10 by 10 waist level finders. The shutter release button in later models shifts up to be aligned with the top of the viewfinder. Models 2, 2A, 3 and 3A produced during the war had a teardrop shaped frame counter. Post-war production of the same models had the rotating ring frame counter. Also, all wartime production models had 3 screws on the cold shoe, but the post-war productions had 2 screws. Model 1 had flat top shutter release button, but the other wartime models had concave or dimpled buttons. To identify Model 3, see that it has 3 windows at the top, so it's a wartime model. See that it has no strap eyelets, so it's either Model 2, 2A or 3. See that it has flash contact, that means it's Model 3. Model 3A is a very rare one, and it may well have been a limited production or a modified model. It is identical to Model 3 pre-war production, but with 2 buttons on the left side of the waist level finder. One of them is for opening the bellows. The purpose of the second button is unknown. So if you see 2 buttons on top, it's Model 3A. Model 2 is exactly the same as Model 3, but doesn't have flash contact. Model 2A is just like Model 2, but the bellows strut has 2 segments rather than 3. Model 4. The first new post-war design has 2 windows since the waist level finder was removed. The viewfinder window has a metal plate around it. The winder now has a film type reminder. The bellows release button is now centered on the cold shoe since there is no waist level finder. The depth of field window is still rotated left. To identify, see that it has 2 windows and not 3, so it's not one of the wartime designs. See that the top panel has curved features. This is sufficient, but for further confirmation, see that the depth of field window is rotated left and is flush with the body. This means it's not one of the other Model 4s, like 4B or 4S. Model 5 is the first dual format design. The top plate is very similar to Model 4, but look at the 2 windows on the front. There's a metal plate that covers both of them. That's different. The film winder is not solid cylinder, but almost mushroom shaped. On the back, there's a single red window, even though it's dual format, which is selectable with a lever on the left. Inside, there are 2 metal flaps, which are neatly hidden on the sides. In this mode, the film frame is 6 by 6. When the flaps are rotated to the front, the frame is reduced to 6 by 4.5. Like all models, the pressure plate goes over the film so that it remains flat as the back focusing system moves forward and backward. Identification is easy. 2 windows linked with a metal panel. There's a frame format selector below the film winding knob. Inside, there must be 2 functioning flaps to mask the frame down to 6 by 4.5. Model 5A is identical to Model 5, but the format selector knob is different and looks a little more modern. Model K is a simplified version of Model 5 dual format, but it has a metal panel only around the viewfinder window, not both windows. It's almost like Model 4. The winder is solid cylinder and has no auto stop. The top panel is now squared off and has no curves. All subsequent models are also squared off. We see that the depth of field window is still flush with the body, but no longer rotated left, it's straight up. On the back, the viewfinder has a rectangular black frame. Also, we now see 2 red windows within the metal frame, since there is no automatic film stop, and you have to use these to set the numbers on the back of the film. One red window is for 6x6 and the other is for 6x4.5. There is a vertical slider for selecting which window will open. The other will be locked. On the back of 120 film, there is one row of numbers for 6x6 and one row of numbers for 6x4.5. To quickly identify Model K, see that it has two windows, a squared off top and dual red windows linked together with the metal panel. That's Model K for sure. Model 4B. This is a cosmetic upgrade to Model 4. Now both windows are frameless and look sleek. The depth of field is within a circle and raised. Film winder is mushroom shaped. On top of the winder, we now have ISO reminder. Of course, it has no impact on the picture as there is no light meter. There's a small change in the auto stop lever. The original Model 4 was like a stick, but Model 4B has an added knob or handle that makes it easier to use. The bellows opening button is now moved to the front rather than the top. All future models also have this button on the front. On the bottom, the design remains unchanged and there are 3 bumps. To quickly identify, see that there is no bar under the lens, so it's not one of the Automat models. See that both front windows are frameless, so it's not Model 4S. It must be Model 4B. For final confirmation of Model 4B, see that the film advance knob is mushroom shaped and the depth of field circle is raised above the body. Automat. This is the first model with automatic shutter cocking mechanism, which you see just below the lens. It uses internal links between the mushroom-shaped film winder and the shutter mechanism. The depth of field window is round-shaped and raised above the body. The viewfinder window now has a thin black frame. The film winder has an ISO reminder, although it has no effect on the picture. The bellows release is on the front, as in all subsequent models. For the first time, the bottom plate is clean without protrusions and the tripod socket is on the right. Some later models also have clean bottom plates, but the location of the tripod socket varies. Identifying Automat is very easy. If it has that curved bar under the lens, it can only be Automat or Automat 2. If it doesn't have the white Mamiya label on the front, it must be this one, Automat. The Model K2 resembles Model 4B, but with dual format. It has a flush viewfinder, rangefinder, and depth of field window. On the back, it has 2 red windows, but unlike Model K, these are separate, not linked with the metal panel. The depth of field window is straight up, not rotated. Also, for the first time, the sliding pressure plate has been replaced with a hinged one, with a latch at the bottom. To quickly identify, see that the front windows are both flush, and the back has 2 separate red windows. Also, open the back and make sure it has a hinged pressure plate. That is a definitive indication it's Model K2. Model P, for popular, was also very similar to the sleek Model 4B. In fact, it's a highly simplified version of that model. It has a unique Mamiya logo on the front. On top, the depth of field window is still circular, but now it's flush with the body, which is new. The ISO reminder is on top of the film winder and is color-coded black and red. The bottom plate is back to the old design with 3 bumps. On the back, there's a single red window. Note that the viewfinder port has a rectangular black frame. It's easy to identify this model as it has some unique features. See that it has frameless windows on the front. Then on top it should have round depth of field and flush with the body. It should also have colored ISO reminder. Finally, on the top, the engraved number 6 is very large and below the Mamiya label. Model 4S is cosmetically a cross between Model 4B and Automat. Like Model 4B, the rangefinder window is flush, and like Automat, the viewfinder window has a thin black frame. Just like Model 4B, the depth of field window is raised above the body, and there's an ISO reminder on the film winder. The bottom plane is clean, like Automat, but in this model, the tripod socket is on the left. To quickly identify, see that there is no bar under the lens, so it's not one of the Automat models. The viewfinder window has a thin black frame. The double exposure prevention lever on the left below the film winder has a knob or handle, unlike the original Model 4 which has a stick. Automat 2. This final model of the series is the next evolution of the automatic shutter cocking system. You see the same curved bar under the lens that links it to the film winder. It visually looks similar to the original Automat with flush rangefinder window and thin black frame around the square rangefinder window. Depth of field is still circular and raised above the body. A unique feature of this model is a white Mamiya label on the front. The bottom plate is clean, again like Model 4S and the original Automat, but the tripod socket returns to the right hand side. Quick identification is easy. First, it must have the curved bar under the lens to be an Automat. Then it must have the white Mamiya label on the front. In case this has been rubbed off, look at the viewfinder on the back. Its black frame should have curved sides, unlike the Automat, which had straight sides. Also, inside the viewfinder, you will see frame lines. Here are the two models that we have here, and I'm going to demonstrate them to you. This is Model 4, and this is Model K. Single format, dual format. On the front, they look very similar, right? On the back, you can see the difference. Single red window, double red window, because that's dual format. See the top panels. Model 4, Model K. Model 4 has curved features for the viewfinder housing. That would be features similar to Leica. You can see these curved features. The film winder has a film type reminder, but not ISO. Underneath it, there's a frame counter and it's automatic. I'll demonstrate that later. Film winder is a sort of mushroom shaped here. This one is like a solid cylinder and it has no frame counter. This button opens the front and you can see that it has bellows strut in 3 segments, 1, 2, 3. It has one of the old style flash contacts. It's not PC, it's not Prontor Compo. It is one of the archaic old styles. I've tested this one. It actually works, but I can't find any cables to fit it. You press these 2 tabs and close. Easy. You cock the shutter this way and you fire this way. There's no focusing ring here because it's a back focusing camera. This ring is for the shutter speed. Goes from B to 1 full second and then 1/500th of a second. Aperture ring is hard to reach. There's this little ring over here and you read it on the other side, over there. 3.5 to 22. The bottom is a 3-bump design. These are for the film spool release. That's a tripod socket. To open the back, you pull this tab out and open. This is a slide-on pressure plate. These springy things are on top, not at the bottom. The previous owner of this camera clearly had tried to put it in this way for a neat looking top and scratch this to bits. This is the focusing ring. As you turn this, it goes up and down. Can you see? So the film needs to be held very tightly against that, otherwise it'll rotate against the 2 spools and it'll move. So this has to be held very tightly. Therefore this pressure plate is very important. When the film counter is on 1 and before you take the first shot, it rotates freely and it doesn't move to the next number. It rotates freely to allow you to load the film. To load the film, pull this tab out, open the back. The take-up spool needs to be on the other side. We get rid of this pressure plate for now. I take this out and put it on the other side. Push this with the thumb to the left and pull this out, it pops out. To put it on the other side, you have to engage with that thing. It's easier if that is in the horizontal direction. So you look at this slot, put it in the horizontal direction there, press it in and pull this out. It engages immediately. So as you rotate, that also rotates. Make sure the slot is on top. This is a test roll. Make sure the colored side is on top and the film is going to go over the top. Push this through there, pull this out. Pull this film through the slots between the lips to the other side. Push this through into the slot until the crease. That's the crease. Rotate this while you hold it. Make sure it doesn't pop out. Sometimes it pops out and you do it again, doesn't matter. After a couple of turns, it grips very tightly. Okay? That's due to friction. Push this in the direction of the arrow. At this point, you're supposed to close this and open that window with this slider, open to the red window, and you see the back of the film. You're supposed to rotate this until number 1 appears. Now, for demonstration purposes only, I'm going to open the back. You don't do this at home. Okay? As you rotate this, you'll find that a number of things come through, some arrows and things. You ignore all of them, especially this one. That's not for this camera. You find arrows at different levels. When you see the one in the middle through that window, you know that you're getting close to number 1. That's a warning. Then you see the label Kodak, very thin. Be careful, especially through a red window. It says Kodak. And then immediately after Kodak, number 1 appears. It's very badly printed usually. It's like a lowercase l rather than a proper number 1. That is the alignment. Okay, that's the first shot. Okay, so we open this. We cock the shutter. At this point, we can shoot. It's number 1, shoot. Okay, that has now communicated with this. And a red patch has gone in the middle of the screen. It tells you that the shot has been taken. And this is locked. To release it and remove that red patch, push this to the left and rotate this until it automatically stops at number 2. So it's a combination of automatic stop and double exposure prevention. And this is automatically on number 2. You don't need this anymore because it does the automatic counting from here on. Only number 1 matters. The camera is very clever. It actually knows that when the spool starts, it's full and the take-up spool is empty. But towards the end, this is empty, that is full. So the amount of rotation needs to change. See how they've done it so cleverly. On top, look at the distance between 1 and 2. See that distance? Now on this side, have a look at the distance between 11 and 12. Almost half, isn't it? So that's to do with the size of the spool. As it's rotating, it's pulling more film, so it needs to rotate less to pull the same amount of film. Focus with this thumb wheel, left and right. That pushes the film in and out. And one indication of that, measured by distance, is also here, depth of field. This one is rotated sideways, but the numbers are straight up. Okay, so perhaps at f11 from 5 to 10 is in focus. It's really convenient because in the other folding cameras, you have to get your fingers awkwardly to the very front. Sometimes you get your fingers into the frame and rotate the focusing ring. But this is so convenient right here. This is Model K. Simple squared off top and straight up depth of field. This one doesn't have automatic frame counter and automatic lock. Instead, you have to use the red windows only and read the numbers for yourself. Since this is dual format, there are 2 windows to look at the back of the film. So how does that work? Film loading is exactly the same. Pressure plate is exactly the same. The film spool is exactly the same. This one superficially looks the same, but look, the frame size is now smaller than before because there's a rotating flap over here and here that you can adjust. This goes back, becomes 6 by 6. forward, it is 6 by 4.5. A very simple mechanical system. There are now two windows. One window on the back of the film looks at the frame counting for 6 by 6, this one, and one for 6 by 4.5. Therefore, the direction of this is super important. It must be in that direction, as this arrow shows, and this arrow shows. Must be in that direction. You could, in theory, put it in that direction, but that would be wrong. At this point, you can close the back. There's no slider here for automatic lock. There's no frame counter, so you don't worry about that. You choose the format that you want, 6 by 4.5 here. So I want to open that one. This slider goes to the top. The other direction is 6 by 6. So I want 6 by 4.5. And now I open this. The other one is locked. Now this aligns. Let me just open it. And you don't do this, otherwise you ruin the film. This aligns with this. So it's easier to show you this way. So as you pull this, you find that there's another series of numbers. Then at that height, the little Kodak comes up. That's Kodak. So when you close this, you can see that Kodak is aligned there. After that, at that height, number 1 comes. You can see that number 2 is very close, because that's 4.5. In this row, which is for 6 by 6, number 2 is further away. You see, number 2 is here. At that height, number 2 was correct. That number is either very close to the window or further away from the window based on the focus. Because of that back focusing system, you see, it's now very close, it's now far away. Now, considering this situation, sometimes you get light leaks, because if that's further away from that, it doesn't completely match that, you get light leaks. So it's highly recommended that you leave this closed all the time, and only when you want to advance the film, you open it up. The models with very good condition have a rubber flappy thing over here that seals against the back even as that moves up and down. This one has lost that, so I have to be very careful to advance the film in relative darkness. Another way that you can ensure you don't get light leaks is just before the film advance, you pull this to the right until this is hard up against the back plate, advance the film to the next number, then focus. Okay, that's another way. If you want to do double exposure or multiple exposure, you can do this as many times as you like, because there's no link between this and this. Both of these are in perfect condition, and the film test shows that there's no light leak and the lenses are in good condition as well. Model 4 has the Olympus Zuiko lens. This one has a Secor lens, which has a better reputation. My film tests indicate that this lens is also a little bit sharper than this one, but the difference is not huge. Let's do a size comparison. Size Icon Netar, no rangefinder, slightly smaller. Agfa Isolate, thinner and shorter, but quite a few less features here. Again, no rangefinder, no dual format, no back focusing. Fujica 6. Here is number 6 appearing again. Fujica 6. Quite a sleek looking device. Shorter, no rangefinder, but dual format. 6x6, 6x4.5. This is another size Icon Netar, quite a bit longer, but shorter Single format, no rangefinder, but this one has another trick. Six by 9 instead of 6 by 6. Mamiya C3 Professional. Substantially heavier, I would say almost double. Same film format. As far as folding 120 film cameras are concerned, original Mamiya 6 models are towards the very top. They happen to be my favorites in comparison with many excellent models from companies like Fuji, Saisicon, Voigtlander, Agfa and Mamiya itself. Most options are large and heavy. Lighter folding cameras are available, but few with features such as automatic film stop, dual frame size, rangefinder focusing, or the convenience of the thumb focusing ring. Mamiya 6 series, depending on the model, tick all the boxes. I can testify that they are reliable, high quality, easy to carry, and fun to use. They give exceptional results on a huge film frame, and you're going to love it. Today, these can be bought for a fraction of the price of a Hasselblad or Rolleiflex. The Zuiko lenses are a little hit and miss. Some of them suffer from cloudiness in the rear group, which cannot be cleaned or polished due to problems with the quality of the glass material used at the time. Those with Mamiya's own Secor lenses are preferred today. Before you know it, these Mamiya 6 cameras will be rediscovered by the new generation of film camera fans and will become unaffordable. Here's your chance to pick up the masterpiece of Seiichi Mamiya, the inventor and innovator. That's all I have for you today, and I'll see you with the next video. Subscription means thank you.